flow a day, 365 days. We're allowed 227,760,000 gallons of water sewer product, if you will. In 2019, the cost to the Township of Middletown Sewer Authority was right around 467,000. In 2018, it was higher, it was 496,000. And then 451, 432, and 460. Our flows this year are at about 180 million compared to 189 million last year. And this is right in line and consistent with the flow of water. So if you flow 1 million gallons, you would hope to get not 1 million gallons, but probably close to maybe 925 or 950, because you have to remember a lot of people have lawn sprinklers and outdoor spigots. They wash their car, they hose their driveway down. That's not making it into the sanitary sewer system. So according to Mr. Doherty, who everybody knows Mr. Doherty, we're right in line and consistent. So if you're interested, actually I'm going to email you the spreadsheet. I've been keeping them since we dissolved the sewer authority back in 2014, mid-14. So I do have the 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 numbers listed on that spreadsheet. So again, I think it's a sign of what we have invested in the infrastructure, the different work that our men do in the water and sewer department under the leadership of Bobby and now Jimmy Phillips. These guys know the infrastructure, and with Bobby retiring, we're losing a lot of knowledge. But thank God he's not moving out of town.
Can I throw one thing on that? Sure. Adam had said that we dissolved the sewer authority in 14. We were paying, what was it, 80 a month?
89,000 a month.
Okay, so 90,000 times 12 months, so we were at a calculator, that's over $1 million a year. $1.8 million a year. This past year, we were at 467,000. Okay, so by dissolving it, we saved better than $500,000 to the borough.
You know, one might say, well, you know, you have employees. That the employees aren't factored into here. But when the governing body authorized the promotion, if you will, of Jim Phillips, DPW director, once Mr. Doherty retires, that employee, they go back to the normal amount of employees in the water and sewer department. So Mr. Deloso's right. It has saved an additional attorney, an additional engineer, an additional administrator. It has saved probably close to $500,000. The unfortunate news, or the bad part is, there has not been an increase in water and sewer rates since 2012. And I know last year we talked about having our auditor do an evaluation of our system and the flows and what the fees are and comparing them to other towns and so on and so forth. And that's something that we're going to have to talk about. We're going to have a serious talk about that. The water is not the issue. It's the sewer. And until we pay off those sewer bonds, we inherited over $6 million in debt from the sewer dissolution. So we're using that savings not to offset the rates, we're using the savings to pay off the debt. And once we get to the bottom of that, then we're in pretty good shape. But it's gonna take, you know, another, I think 2028 or 29. So, you know, it's just something that we live with, but the actuary at the time, the study showed that it would be saving the town money. And it is, I can assure you that it is. I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves. That's it, Mayor, thank you.
That's what you call a lot of roughage for
Sorry.
Jake used to say it was a product being
a product.
Yeah, that's where I got the word.
Okay, Public Works.
Report's been sent in.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor, I wasn't sure if it was appropriate at the time when the police report came in, because I knew Chief sometimes reports down here, but I did want to ask you a question, Chief, and I didn't tell you in advance, so I'm not expecting you to tell me which category is which, but I first want to commend the department. Tuesday night after our harbor meeting, there was an obvious domestic call that people came in, and it was super clear to me and to the others present that our police department is viewed as a safe place. I'm still emotional about it because there were young people involved, so thank you, because a lot of times for domestics, it's, you know, we have to feel like they're going to a safe place if they're going to leave their homes. The other question I had for you was on the final report for arrests in 2019, and again, please tell me at the next meeting,
domestic violence,
If there's an arrest made?
well, I believe there's 18 offenses for domestic violence.
Okay.
So it could be any one of those
Okay.
18: harassment, some more serious kidnapping, sexual assault, criminal mischief, criminal trespass. So it all falls in those categories.
So when you and I had met last year, I just want the public to be aware that this, because they're spread out in all these different categories, that these incidents are still the number one, correct? Are they the number one call for our police
I
department?
won't say that's the number one call for the police department, but it is we do a lot of domestic violence calls.
Thank you, because I know our department is very trusted by 180 turning lives around, and we have really great support for those that are.
It's definitely prevalent, and it's not just in Atlantic Highlands, it's every town, and we do our fair share of domestic violence incidents.
Thank you, because it's just very clear that your training is awesome.
Thank
And
you.
again, those types of calls are probably the chief, I think, will agree, are the most time consuming.
They're time consuming, they're also very confidential, so we wouldn't put those in the newspaper.
Right.
We responded to domestic. In fact, they don't even want to classify the incident as a domestic. We classify it as what the offense was, harassment, and then it falls under that category. But it's very private. Like I said, if there is a domestic violence incident at somebody's house, they should not expect to see that in the newspaper.
That's very appreciated. Thank you.
Environmental Commission?
Yes, Mayor. Just to add to Mr. Crowley's comments on the plastic ban. At present, and I don't know if anybody has any new other update, the State Assembly and Senate have bills for a very tough plastic ban, which would probably supersede our ban, that I believe needs to be passed by Monday, or it all reverts to the next year's legislature. So if anybody has any strong feelings, and of course on either side, I would suggest you contact your senator and assembly people tomorrow.
I reached out today to Sweeney and Coughlin, so our speaker and senator, and what I got back is they are not certain if it's going to be voted on before the 14th, but they are working hard to try to get it on and voted before the 14th. Otherwise, it'll go into after recess, but they're trying. And anybody else can do that too.
Recreation?
I thought the gentleman already went through, but I do have it. It is on January 23rd, Thursday, here in the back room, at 6:30. And, we welcome everybody. If you have any, like to see something happen in town. And hopefully, just on the note, what you were talking about, some kind of day, for Atlantic Highlands. I believe it was last year when you and, Councilman Murphy brought something up like that, having, like a Atlantic Highlands Day. So if you can keep the, recreation in a loop as well, that would be awesome.
Yep, we'll talk about it this next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shade Tree?
Good evening, Mayor. May I pass into public session, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
And schools?
Well, I'll take a moment to congratulate the three newest members, one returning, Elizabeth Ettram, Deborah Pello, and Ryan Palmera, for becoming new board members in town. Congratulations to them. Also want to make note, once again, as I did last meeting, about the Tri-District Strategic Planning Plan work session coming up this Saturday, January 11th, from 9 to 1 p.m. at Henry Hudson in the cafeteria. So if you're interested in giving some insight, I'm sure we all would love to hear that insight, please make all efforts to attend the meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m., or, yeah, Saturday, excuse me, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And
Hudson, yeah, I might have said this last time, but it bears repeating, is our STEAM Academy kids, won the state. Also, there's a chance auction coming up, to benefit the PTO February 1st. If any of you've got kids that are attending Hudson, they're going to Disney World next year, but they're having a organizational meeting on January 14th up at Hudson in the band room at 6:30. And hot off the heels of their big success with Frozen, they're actually starting to plan their next show, which really features the high school kids, and that's Little Shop of Horrors. So they're starting the process for that. And you know what, there's a young lady named Corinna Vidal who is being touted as State Athlete of the Year, and it's coming up with, you can all vote at Asbury Park Press. You can put a vote, right now she's running second, literally and figuratively, and she's a really talented athlete. And so if you can go to APP and cast your vote for her, she's a local girl, would be great. And one thing I forgot to mention also is I spoke with Charlie Rogers, who's the OEM coordinator for Middletown, and next week I'm going to go down and look at their emergency radio system that they have. And he seemed very positive and supportive of having that as a tool in their toolkit. So I'm going to look at how they do it, and then I'll report back further on that. Sorry.
Also, just Mr. Crowley mentioned Corinna Vidal. Jerry Basto is also on there as a baseball player of the decade. So I think he was leading the pack, you know, as of this morning. So
You may vote early and often on those polls, so,
there you go.
yeah, you can vote as many times as you would like for your supported athlete.
I'm sorry, but I.
That's okay, I'm not offended. Mayor, this is my second meeting as the borough attorney for Atlantic. I don't have a whole lot to report, but I will say that I've had many conversations with Mr. Cubany. He's bringing me up to speed on all the issues that the borough is dealing with and has dealt with in the recent past. And I'm looking forward to working with everybody on the council. And I'll probably have more report next time.
Okay.
Welcome aboard.
And our engineer.
Thank you, Mayor. The municipal road program that was completed over the summer by Jazz Construction is ready to be closed out at this point. We received the post-construction paving core testing results. Everything came back satisfactory. We'll close them out and seek the remaining grant money from the state. The 2019 municipal road program is anticipated to start mid-next week. That's over on 3rd Avenue. You'll hopefully be able to, you'll see construction crews over there, beginning with the replacement of the water main. So that'll last approximately a month between 3rd Avenue and 4th Avenue.
Great.
Mr. Hubie and I are going to meet next week to talk about the remaining grants in place and develop a capital improvement plan for you.
Okay, thank you. So, now, we have no unfinished business.
But how many of us buttonholed Mr. O'Scanlan this last week too, to continue the search for a little more money from the state for our streets, right?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I mean, it just picked back up, and you know, 1.165 million for Bayside Drive that you've committed to Bayside. And that's what Mr. Romeyer and I are going to be talking about, engineering costs and putting that together. And we still have the $1 million municipal road program that you authorized. So, you know, I think I said last meeting, you have about $3 million in road improvement, and out of that 3 or 4 million over the last, you know, few years, there's only $1 million of municipal tax money. The rest of it is all grants.
Thank you.
Okay, now, there's no unfinished business, so new business. Consent agenda. These items will be enacted by one motion. If detailed deliberation is desired on any item, council may remove that item from the consent agenda and consider it separately. So-
Mayor, I would like to request that we pull resolution 029-2020.
Yes, that was numbered.
Okay. So. Okay, resolution.
That is the video and 3-minute policy.
26, 2020, amending adjustments to.
Water and sewer bill. So what this is not anything to do with the July, August, or October read. This is folks that throughout the year, they write a letter to myself or an email. One adjustment is for a pool fill, one adjustment is for a repair, one is for a sprinkler leak, and the other one is for a washing machine leak. So, most utilities throughout New Jersey will not give you an adjustment. But over the years, the governing body has given me the authority, and the auditor requires at the end of the year, there has to be a resolution that's approved by you to give the adjustments. I don't make the adjustments on my own. I deal with our utility collector and Mr. Doherty. So this is recommended by the Water Department Committee, if you will.
Resolution 27/2020, adopting commercial driver's license policy.
So this is a mandate. This is a new federal law. It's more of a federal clearinghouse. So that means if somebody in New Jersey with a New Jersey CDL had an accident and created a death or whatever the case may be, drunk driving, and they moved from New Jersey to Florida, there was never a way to check what their driving record was under the commercial driver's license. Now, every one of our CDL drivers, and I believe we have 19 CDL drivers, they have to register in the clearinghouse. Although it's a federal mandate, it's a federal law, it's always best to have any of those federal laws adopted by the municipality, so this will go in our personnel policy. This has been reviewed by the local associations, the municipal employees, and the municipal supervisors. This has been reviewed by them.
Thank you. Resolution 28/2020, transfer of funds.
That again is so we can pay our bills.
Okay. Resolution 30/2020, amending resolution 17/2020, appointments municipal officials.
So Mayor, we apologize, but this is an amendment. There were just a few things that were left off of resolution, I believe this was resolution 17, and that was, we are adding Father Jarlath Quinn, along with Father Fernando as a police chaplain. That's on resolution 30.
One question about that, Councilman Delosa, did you have any other questions following up from January 1st about, public space you'd raised on, were you satisfied there?
Yeah.
Is that the appointment?
No, this is just adding the police.
Sorry, 31.
Okay, resolution 31/2020, amending resolution 18/2020, appointments authorities committee.
Okay, so this is regarding the environmental commission. The environmental commission, a commission's different than a committee, is governed by Title 40 under state statute. And Mr. Kraus, who is very organized, pays close attention to everything. There were some deletions or there were some oversights. So one is Mr. Kraus, the mayor appoints Mr. Kraus as chairman of the environmental commission 1 year. Brian Doherty, 3-year ending 12/31/22. Linda Payne-Gruters, unexpired term 12/31/2020, and alternate member Don Gates, 1-year term ending 12/31. In addition, the Senior Citizens Committee, Brenda Hotchkiss has requested to be removed, and the Shade Tree Commission, Lori Hohenleitner, Council Rep, Lori Montana, and Janet Grove. Now that's just not the only three. There are terms that stagger. So that's why there's only, there's one that serves 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. So you're never replacing the whole body in 1 year. So those are the changes. Mrs. Clark, wasn't there one more for the fire marshal?
You have a new one in your packet there. Recreation. Fire marshal, and I think environmental is a little different than what you read.
Okay, so we'll go back to that. So recreation is Dan Sutton, regular member. Tracy Lynn Tomaso has come off. Environmental is, disregard what I just said. Environmental, Linda Payne-Gruters, unexpired term. Alternate member Brian Doherty, and alternate member Don Gates. And the fire marshal, Martin O. Hawley, 2 years. Paul Murphy, 2 years. Stephanie Hawley, 2 years. And James Merkel as an inspector, 2 years, expiring 21.
And last resolution, 32/2020, payment of bills.
John, in answer to your question, no, I'm still not satisfied. 2 people are on the open space, and I voiced my concern last time about it. I think they should be there. Thank you.
The payment of bills is $127,730.80.
Okay. So I need a motion,
I'll move it.
second,
Second.
discussion? Okay. Roll call?
Mr. Bombs?
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Yes.
Mr. Deloso?
Yes.
Ms. Von Meitner?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Resolutions on the consent agenda have passed.
Public comment.
Nope.
Resolution is pulled out of consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor, may I request that we vote on this resolution after public commentary, is that possible? Since it is involving the public, I'm just wondering if we could have the public comment on it, if they so wish, they may not, but I would just thought if we should make that available to them. Is that possible?
What you can do, Mayor, is you can have, if somebody wants to introduce the resolution and second, you can have council discussion. Following the council discussion, considering that it's basically the next item, is public comment. You can have public comment on the, whatever the public would like to talk about. I think, is that what you?
I would appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so close on the agenda anyway,
Right.
I think that that's the normal procedure. In any event, so we have a motion to introduce the resolution. There's a second, we can have discussion amongst the council.
Okay, all right. So I'm going, resolution 2920, and make a motion, and then a second, and then discussion.
Correct.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, I'm looking at this, and I actually called up, Adam and I spoke about this earlier today. I understand the reasoning behind this and why we wanna have this on record and all that. But are we sure 3 minutes is enough time for the public to get out, their message? I understand, with that being said, if it's not enough time, does the public have an opportunity to speak again, to go back to their comment, if they don't have enough time to give their comment?
It's 3 minutes per person.
Yeah. So,
After their comment, if there's still further discussion needed, do they have that ability to go back and speak again?
You mean if they've used up their 3 minutes and then
Right.
somebody said something else and then you wanna ask a question based on that or make another commentary to,
Yes.
is it cumulative or does the clock start again? Is that sort of the gist of your question?
In a sense, do they have another opportunity to speak again? Or
Right.
if they didn't finish their comment or their concern, they didn't get that close?
no.
It's 3 minutes. The way, as, I don't need to jump in, Councilman.
No.
As worded, it's a 3-minute time limit per person for that meeting. So,
For
correct.
the entire meeting?
Correct, for public comment. So, and it can be, the number of minutes is totally up to the council. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 3 minutes. This almost the exact same resolution, in fact, is enacted in other municipalities close by. And it's up to the council if you want to include it.
So can I just ask, Mayor, was your intention to limit what folks could what the public could participate in to 3 minutes?
What I was looking at is I know that I'm from the school boards. We had 3 minutes. When I say 3 minutes is a long time for somebody to get up and talk, it is. So I'm assuming that everyone here has cohesive, decisive thought and could be brought up in 3 minutes. I know that my speech that I did, that was 2 minutes and 50 seconds. I think I actually said everything that I needed to at that time, and I believe that 3 minutes is definitely enough time to say that. And you have other opportunities. I mean, the people here, can't really hijack it. There's going to be, more people hopefully or not, that we could be here, and if you don't set a time limit, they can talk as long as they want.
I understand the structure and purpose of content, and I understand the video, I don't disagree with necessarily with the video part of it, based on what could happen, provided having something else, like news stations come or something,
Mhm.
crazy type of When we're talking about serious issues, I feel like I don't know how I feel about limiting that to 3 minutes for the entire meeting to talk, if that's a concern.
You know, my opinion, we have a major issue going on. I think it'd be wise to limit them to 3 minutes per round, so everybody gets their shot speaking, and they can come back around. But I am not in favor of limiting 3 minutes just to start, you know, from the get-go.
Just from
But-
procedural, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, but I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to set a limit.
Fine.
Okay, yeah, I can explain. So under the Open Public Meetings Act, as a public body, you have the right to set aside a portion of every public meeting, the length of the portion to be determined by the municipal governing body. So what does that mean? That means you as the governing body have the right to set your public comment section as you have. You also can set the time in which people can speak. When you set the time in which people can speak, it has to be content neutral. It can't be, well, I'm going to allow some people to speak at this meeting for as long as they want, but at the next meeting, when we're going to discuss this other topic, it's going to be limited. It has to be content neutral, so that's why you have an objective, not length of time, people can speak at these meetings, and what you want to do as a council is you want everybody to be able to speak regardless of what their point of view is. When you set a time limit, it's not arbitrary, so nobody can say you've been arbitrary enforcing it. It's in the resolution, it's a borough policy. So in that way, it protects you in the event that somebody would say, well, you let me, you let them speak and not me, and it avoids those issues.
So we have the right to, but we're not required to.
That's right.
I just have a procedural question, because I'm sure
Sure.
Mr. Bombs and Mr. Crowley would like to weigh in, but, I have, this could be totally untrue. I think that you had been considering restructuring the agenda so that public comment for agenda items only would be held at the top of the meeting.
Yes.
So, I guess one of my concerns, if we were to change to that, is that we could limit then folks in our valley to only comment on the agenda items and then be ineligible to comment on something else that they may have wanted to bring to the table. So I just don't know in that scenario, if we did implement that change, would this eliminate the opportunity for someone to speak twice?
So that would be my question as well. I mean, if they were to come in the workshop at the beginning of ordinances, could they then comment at the end?
As long as you're there within the time.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier, 3 minutes per meeting doesn't seem
Jason, what
fair.
are the other boroughs around this issue?
Shrewsbury has 3 minutes. I know that
And your council members.
I am, the ordinance, the resolution was enacted within the last 12 months. I know there are other boroughs in Monmouth County that do the same, and other counties as well.
I know this is also, we do this, and this is just for the councils, this is for all the
No,
boards and
the borough
planning.
council.
So the planning board hasn't gone and ran that for 3 months, that would have nothing to do
No,
with
this
this.
is just for the borough council meetings, that's right.
So I'd like to add something. What's interesting is what just occurred here was a discussion and a nice flow of ideas and communicating amongst ourselves that went over 3 minutes. Now, obviously, we're not talking about limiting council discussions, that's something different, but I will just say that in my 2 years on the council, when I came on board, there was very little discussion with members of the community in attendance. And under the last administration and new faces on board here, we're engaging in a flow of communication, which I like. Because in the past, as you well know, people would make commentary and then we would just say thank you, and that was it. So,
But that's why it says comments, we're not supposed to.
But
Can we
when
get the
people,
audience opinion?
when people come, yeah, I've asked for that.
Sharon comes around that.
I do not believe, look, this is a form of censorship, and I can't hold with limiting people to 3 minutes, especially now that I know that what we're talking about is this is a cumulative total. And it's not like you talk for 2 minutes, now you've only got 1 minute left on the other side. If somebody else raises a point and you, as somebody sitting out there, wants to raise a point, you've got 1 minute and then you're done for the night. And I can't hold with that, I just cannot.
John, I don't think this is a censorship, more so as it's an effort to structure the meeting and protect ourselves from future stuff. I just necessarily don't think it's enough time for entire meeting, that's my opinion.
And I and I agree, but when you're cutting somebody off, then I think, I'm sorry, Councilman, I respectfully disagree that, I think that when you're cutting somebody's ability off to comment, as you said, if something gets raised and they wanna raise it later, it's a form of censorship. If anything, it's just a form of shutting down conversation and the flow of information, and I can't hold with that. So if you wanna take the word censorship out and say we're cutting off on the communication, and we've all run on being more open and communicative with our constituency. But with or without, I'm just gonna finish, with or without the resolution voting on it, because as Council, Mr. Senna said, if you don't have the resolution, then you can't legally enforce it, back it up. What does that mean to any of us? There are maybe 3 or 4 instances this year where anybody got up and exceeded 3 minutes. Most people are very good about limiting their comments. And so what are we gonna do? If somebody goes over 3 minutes, we're gonna call the chief and say, can you please escort them out if they're becoming disruptive? If they're becoming disruptive, we would take them out. But if somebody's just going 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes, how are we gonna, what's the enforcement? How does it change any? We're not changing the way we're gonna enforce it. The mayor is gonna very politely say, I'm sorry, but I've let you go for 3.5, 4 minutes, and they're gonna sit down. There's very few times that we've encountered any of us in the last 2 years that we've gone over, and I just don't think it's fair to our neighbors. So I am going to say that I'm all about, don't block the ingress, egress with tripods for cameras. I get that, that's common sense logic, but I'm gonna vote no on the resolution as it stands because for all the reasons I just said, I'm sorry.
I would not see some tweaking to the resolution.
Can we get the public now?
Public comment after the vote.
You don't get
Yeah.
a comment on a resolution.
You said, here, they're.
I apologize if I misspoke, what I intended to say was after the vote, this is the next item on the agenda.
What's the point then?
How about if you remove number 1?
Yeah, I would be in favor of that.
How about if you amend this, there's nothing to amend, you just take out number 1 about the 3 minutes. This way, if you have recordings, you have tripods, God forbid, something big happens here and you have this courtroom loaded up with TV cameras, there's no way to enforce this, as Mr. Senna said, unless you have something on file.
I have no problem with, personally, I have no problem with tripods, that's logic, I'm not blocking entrances and exits, I agree with that. If we remove the 3-minute thing and we can bring it back later, whatever, if you feel the need. What's that?
I'm fine taking out.
Is there a motion to accept with the amendment taken out?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Number 1
Just to be clear what the motion is to pass resolution 029-2020 with paragraph 1 stricken in its entirety. Is that right? Is that the motion?
Yeah, item number 1, not paragraph. Item number 1.
That's correct, that's correct. Item number 1.
So Tyler, do you mind reading what the amended resolution would say for the public?
Sure. So item number 1, the group is referring to read public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. The motion is to strike that sentence in its entirety. The remaining portion of the resolution would read as follows, which would be the new paragraph 1. Any person making a video recording of a meeting of the mayor and council shall be permitted to use only 1 recording device. Next paragraph, recording devices shall be unobtrusive and not block aisles, doorways, or other means of ingress or egress of the council chambers. And finally, any person making a video recording of the meeting of the mayor and council shall not record any person under the age of 18 unless that individual is a family member or at the request of a family member of the person. That concludes.
Yes, it's unconstitutional.
Yes.
Yes.
You're going to get a lawsuit.
Mr. Delosa?
Yes.
Ms. Hardwiser? Mr. Murphy? Resolution 29, 2020 has passed.
Now, public comment.
So we go out to the public, please stand, name, address. Loud enough so it can get recorded.
Steve Martin from 69 Asbury Avenue. I just want to ask everybody out there, how did you just pass an ordinance that seems unconstitutional? That you're basically telling us we can't bring cameras into a public space, you're going to limit the number of cameras that we bring. There is no way that you could do that, because I could bring as many cameras as I want into a public space, And you've also had another, like, item that says I can't record it, someone who's under 18, they're standing in a public space. It is federally legal for me to record anybody standing in a public space. That's interesting that you guys all just passed that on something when you didn't allow us to talk about, so it's interesting.
It's not unconstitutional.
It's unconstitutional.
I disagree, and so does the appellate division of the Superior Court of the State of New Jersey. And I think that the resolution is lawful and it is permitted by the Open Public Meetings Act.
I wanted to see how someone would enforce it if I were to carry 2 cameras into this place.
Mr. Montone, one thing though about underage is, this is the industry I work in, doesn't, you in a public space have, there's an expectation of your privacy in a public space. Public space not, and that's not been upheld. Also, the industry I work in, if I shoot an underage person, there's all sorts of repercussions, so that needs to be avoided. I can answer that. That law I'm familiar with.
Interesting. Okay.
Thank you. Shelley Kennedy, 104 East Highland. As you can see, I'm holding my recording device. There are times when I bring more than one recording device because the battery may run out. So what I do is I put one aside and then I'll activate the other one. I believe that your ordinance is too broad the way it's currently phrased, so that if I brought 2 recording devices, the second one would be illegal, and I think that's wrong. 2, I don't think that there is a way you can limit the number of cameras that the press has when they come in. You can, of course, from a fire marshal perspective, keep people from blocking the aisles. It's perfectly acceptable. But when you talk about, again, as Mr. Moutone said, recording people in a public space, there may be a New Jersey appellate decision on that, but I don't think it's constitutional, notwithstanding the New Jersey court's decision, and you may end up with a lawsuit on your hands. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sherman?
Mike Sherford, 55 Avenue D. I only have 25 minutes of things to ask. No, I'm kidding. I do have like five comments or questions that I'd like to ask. Do you want me to ask one and then sit down and then raise my hand again? Oh, okay, fine. One, on a much lighter note and fun note, the one recreational item that was not mentioned tonight is the Atlantic Highlands Art Council show, members show. It runs through the month of January. It's on now. Please go see the show. What's going to be different about this show is that you're not going to be just looking at paintings on the walls and sculptures on a pedestal, okay? You're going to also